And the last example I kind of want to give, but I'm not going to get too much into it. I'm really not a police hater, to be clear about that. I'm actually very respectful of police.
Pause it.
I have a great relationship.
Always have been. A lot of y'all try to clock me and say that because I supported BLM that I've always said that all cops are bad, and never once have I said that. I was peak woke here. That is 2019. My hair was black. My face was skinny. I didn't even have a beard. That is old me. That is the old Xavier. I even said right here, I have never been a police hater. I've always had good relationships with police. So that is tea. That is receipts to freedom. Because y'all always want to tell me that I used to be a cop hater. Never was. Because even in my woke days, if you look at my sign I stand behind, it said honor your oath or surrender your badge. If you are a police officer and you're not doing your job correctly, surrender your badge, retire, get fired, do something, go home, call in sick. But what you not gonna do? See right there? That was the sign I took to all the BLM rallies, or at least the ones that were in California. So don't do too much and try to say that because I was marching for George Floyd that I was against all police officers, because that is not the case, partner. Back to the story. To freedom! I'm waiting to get that off my chest.
There's a lot of people who are police officers and people who are going to be police officers. But in Illinois, there is still so much prejudice that some of the people on the Pontiac Police Force have. Just blatant examples, like I remember my brother and I being at a park when we were really, really young. It couldn't have
My
been
brother was a degenerate, mind you.
2 p.m., probably about 1 p.m. We were walking to the park on a Saturday, and this officer picked he and I up, took us home, and said to my mom that he didn't want us getting into any kind of trouble. And my mom was like, what kind of trouble would he be getting in? And that particular officer has a history of harassing my family, but that's a different topic for a different day. And he's even admitted to my mom about the fact that he harassed my eldest brother. But that's besides the point.
Pause.
And I remember...
without spilling too much of my own family tea, that officer had, while he was overstepping, making us get in the car and go home, in retrospect, that officer had a point, because we were in a park called Fell Park. And in Pontiac, Illinois, that was the park where everything bad happened. Every single thing that was bad was happening at Fell Park. And we would, this story, I had to have been like 7, if even, maybe even younger than that. I think I might have been like 5 or 6. I was really young. And I remember my brother, who's almost 7 years older than me, he was getting into a lot of trouble. He was breaking into things. He was doing too much. Okay, he was always getting a whooping, always getting suspended. He was doing too much. So when this officer picked us up and took us home and said that I went to make sure that they weren't getting into any trouble, he had a point. I get it, because who knows what we would have gotten into, and whether that was trouble because not me, because I was a child of God, like I was sent here to be, but my brother was always doing too much. So whether it was him doing something crazy, or if it was something crazy happening around us that would have affected us, that officer potentially helped us. And for the family members that he was harassing, not all of them, but some of them were guilty. Some of them were guilty. So you know what? The harassment was justified to an extent. Shout out to that officer. Actually, I think he got fired for something else recently. So I guess that's karma. But at the same time, he wasn't wrong about everything. So let's keep it moving.
We're having an incident that I discussed on Twitter, and everybody tried to tell me that I was milking the situation, but I was almost falsely arrested for a robbery that had happened hours before, when I had blatant proof that I had just gotten from Champaign because I was taking my finals at U of I, but they didn't want to listen to me.
You know, we're towards the end of the video, so I really just want to sum this up, what happened here. This situation, this is a true story. I almost got falsely arrested. It was racially profiling. That is true. They ripped my pants to take my wallet out. I'm still pissed about that, because those were my most expensive jeans at the time. But basically what happened was there was a robbery earlier in that neighborhood, and it was an elderly woman who couldn't remember who it was, like what the person looked like that robbed her. Ironically, a woman who used to babysit me, I'm pretty sure. But she said that the culprit had on a black mask and black gloves. So when I got dropped off at my cousin's house, this was after I was taking finals at University of Illinois, the police officer saw me walking in the neighborhood and they came up to me asking if I did something and they harassed me. It was a whole scene. It was humiliating. It was mortifying. I will say to this day, that police officer or the police officer who ripped my pants was just being a jerk for no reason. And what I didn't realize that, and this was after my first semester at college, and crime had completely spiked in my neighborhood because of an increase in Section 8 housing. It was like a whole thing. I didn't realize what I was getting myself back into by going back home. And that was a really unfortunate situation where I do feel like the police did not do me any justice. And this is why I say there are some police officers who are bad at their jobs. Something that I should add into the main sheriff or whatever his role was that was leading that whole situation was Black. Notoriously, he didn't like Black people, though. He still doesn't. I will say that's a very, very open secret in Pontiac, Illinois. But, there are police officers who are objectively bad at their job. I have no problem saying that. But having the mindset that all cops are bad is insane.